In the spirit of fairness and regardless of fixbuncombe.com's endorsement, we sought to provide each Republican U.S. Senate primary candidate an opportunity to appear on our show. We have previously hosted Don Brown and are now featuring Michelle Morrow. We have reached out to the Michael Whatley campaign to request an interview. However, as of the date of this release on February 22nd, 2026, we have received no response.
What's up, Buncombe? It's Abby, and today I am here with a guest we've had on before, but in a different role. I'm here with Michelle Morrow, who was running for Superintendent of Public Instruction, and now she's running for U.S. Senate. How are you today?
I am doing fabulous. It's so good to see you again. Thanks for having me on.
Raise a flag of liberty, the land of the free, rejecting tyranny.
Yeah, totally. So what's new? Last time I saw you, we were talking about grades and boys in bathrooms. Now you're talking about laws and policies and things like that. So what's up? What's new?
Well, not much is new, Abby. I just decided that I was going to run for U.S. Senate. So not a lot. We're just really busy traveling the state again. When you're talking about laws and policies. Actually, anybody that knows me knows that for the last 11 years, I actually have been fighting for election integrity and for medical freedom. I fought against the tyranny of the lockdowns and the mandates. I was there every week at Reopen. I was talking to the media. I was going to the legislature. I was pushing back against Roy Cooper. Fought for education reform, as you know. I helped to get the Parental Bill of Rights passed. I helped to get the boys out of our girls' sports. I was trying to get DEI and CRT out of our schools before people even knew what DEI and CRT was. And same thing, I was a missionary in Mexico, and that's actually how I got involved in politics, as I started talking about the dangers of an open border. And that was in 2015. So I have been talking about the issues that right now are still so pertinent to the people of North Carolina. And we need a person that is in DC who is a bold, unapologetic, outspoken conservative who is going to do what is best for America and Americans. And we need to get those political, machine people out. And that's on both sides of the aisle. And so that's really why I'm running. I believe I am the only candidate on this ballot that can defeat Roy Cooper and his Democratic machine.
So what was the point for you where you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna run.
Yeah. Well, it's good that you asked because so many people are like, you didn't, you just came out of nowhere. Well, I mean, you need to remember that I actually traveled the state for 10 years talking to different people. So when I was in the superintendent's race, I actually got 2.7 million votes from you all around the state. And by the way, that was more votes than Tom Tillis got to win this seat in
Wow.
2020. Okay. So that's
Okay.
one thing. But so I actually had been working behind the scenes, talking to people from DC all the way down to Florida, discussing what needed to happen. And actually, I was going to them and letting them know that Tom Tillis was going to not be able to defeat Roy Cooper because I sensed that President Trump's administration did not know really what the landscape is in North Carolina in terms of there's a lot of division, as you know, within the Republican Party. And I thought he was censured by 53 counties. And I said, he's not going to be able to do it. Roy Cooper is a machine. He's been in politics for 40 years. We need somebody that's going to go after him and expose who Roy Cooper really is. This just can't be politics as usual. We're just going to trust that we've got an endorsement and we've got millions of dollars so we can do, lots of fancy ads. What we need is someone who's going to inspire the people of the 3.8 million President Trump supporters to come out in this midterm and to paint our state red. And me at the top of the ticket, I will get them out. I will show them that this is our fight. This is it, ladies and gentlemen. If we do not defeat Roy Cooper and defeat this radical agenda, we are going to have them coming from the north of us in Virginia and bringing that radical agenda that has just taken over that state. We are next. And so I was talking to them, trying to get Tillis off the ballot, trying to let President Trump know I'm willing to run. Talked to congressmen, I even sent a letter to Laura Trump. And when he announced that he was going to endorse Michael Watley, I figured, well, that kind of makes sense because Michael has always been loyal to President Trump. President Trump is just thinking, I need someone in here who's going to vote right in the proper way so that we can get America First agenda through, for the next 2 years once somebody is in there, for the last 2 years of his administration. But here's what he's not considering. The impact in North Carolina if you don't have a senator who is of the people. We are done, quite frankly, with people only coming to our state when they have a $1,500 dinner or when they're asking for our vote. And I will say that about both Ted Budd and Thom Tillis. In the 2024 race, where were they in helping statewide candidates get elected? And I'll tell you, when Michael Watley has done nothing to reach out to the people of North Carolina and to want to be their representative, right? He's just trusting that he has money and he's got the endorsement. So that means that he's going to ride through the primary. Well, even if he takes the primary, it doesn't mean that he can defeat Roy Cooper. And here's the thing that we seem to be missing the point. The reason we have primaries is to choose the candidate who has the absolute best chance of beating the Democrat. It's not about who got in the race first. It's not about who has the most money. It's not about who the people like. It's about who strategically can retire Roy Cooper forever and stop the tyranny that he brought on our state as the governor. And I'm the only one that can do it. So when I saw in November, I was talking to everybody, talking behind the scenes, but I started a new job as a nurse the end of July. So when President Trump said Michael Watley, I thought, well, I know why he's picking him. He's always done whatever he's asked him to do, right?
Mhm.
But then I thought, well, let's see what he does with this, right? Let's see how he uses that momentum and that encouragement to kind of reach out to the people. Well, in November, there was a poll that showed that Michael Watley was down by 11 points with Roy Cooper. And quite frankly, no one was even talking about this race. This is huge, right? That we keep this Senate. And it's also huge because in North Carolina now, we just redistricted a Democrat congressional seat that could flip Republican. But it matters who's at the top of this ticket. It's going to get out the vote so that we can take that extra seat. So just in North Carolina, we're looking at being able to secure President Trump's Congress for the final 2 years of his presidency. That is so important because if we lose this, it's going back to 2019. Impeachment, lawfare, and worse than we've even seen, right? Because they're angry and they are motivated. And we're sitting back going, well, President Trump's going to take care of it. No, he can't. He has sacrificed so that we, the people, can rise up and take back control of our state and of our nation. And really, when I saw those polls and when I talked to Michael Watley's campaign manager, and I just felt like there's no passion, there's no urgency, there's no like fighting spirit that we desperately need here in North Carolina. We are battling for the soul of our nation in this midterm. And so I prayed about it. I fasted. I talked to a lot of people, and I just said, you know what? I'm going to put my name on the ballot because at least we need to kind of drop a bomb in this race so that people are actually talking about it. And the funny thing is, less than 24 hours later, it was actually 2 hours after I filed, I had 25 news agencies reaching out to me, asking me about it. And one of them said, thank you so much for getting in this race because it was so boring. There was nothing to talk about, right? Because there was nothing happening. So the long and short of that is I love God and I love this country and I love North Carolina. And I love what President Trump is trying to do for us to restore America to its former glory. But we have got to be in the battle to do that. And I just thought 15 months ago, I got 2.7 million votes. People know who I am. And Roy Cooper is going to have to fight tooth and nail. I will tell you and all of your listeners this. Roy Cooper is not threatened by Don Brown or by Michael Watley. They're both the same person. They're a middle-aged lawyer, and they're your typical Republican candidate. The left machine is very used to defeating the typical Republican candidate. Roy Cooper doesn't know what to do with me because I'm a firebrand. right? I will speak truth. I will go toe to toe. I will stand up to the lying media and I will say what needs to be said that other people are afraid to say it. And he knows I'm going to go after him. And it rightfully so, because I believe we as North Carolinians have a duty to protect the rest of the country from the dangerous Roy Cooper. He is dangerous and he's pretending to be moderate and he's pretending to be the guy next door, and he's not. His policies were left of Gavin Newsom on several occasions, and people don't know that about him. And I just couldn't sit back. My kids live here. One of my three grandbabies lives here, and I just love our state too much to just sit on the sidelines. So that's really the really long description of why I got in the race and what I've
Hey,
been doing.
we're good with long answers here.
Yeah.
So, like you're saying, the news agencies are reaching out, the money, the endorsements. This race from several different news agencies and sources have predicted this to be the most intense Senate race in the country. And there's, like you said, Whatley has been endorsed by President Trump. I'm sure there are millions and millions of dollars and foreign dollars probably being
Yeah.
pumped into the
Yeah.
Democrat side of this race. What is the issue that stands out that makes you a standout candidate among the crowd here? Because I mean, there's more than just Michael Whatley and Don Brown the ballot, and forgive me, I don't know their names. I know one of
Un-
them, Dupree, just got removed, but there's someone
yeah.
else, I think.
Oh, there's seven of us. Um,
Okay.
right. And here's the difference. I am the only candidate that has ever run a statewide race. Okay. So you need experience if you're going to go up against a machine that has been winning for 40 years, right? You need that experience. I'm the only one with statewide name recognition. I am the only one that will get us the earned media that we need, right? When they are already coming to me and asking me for an opinion, we need that because that is dollars that we don't have to spend, right? But the other thing is, I am the only person on this candidate and on this in this race that has already been representing the people of North Carolina as a volunteer, right? I have gone to every community talk, every school board race, every legislative action day. I have been, anytime anyone asks me to come and to help them fight an injustice, I got in my car and I went, right? And I've been doing that for 10 years. And now I'm just saying, let me go to Washington and fight for you there. And what's unfortunate is our whole political system has become a corporation. And I'll tell you, the first thing anyone asks me is, how much money do you have? I'm sorry, Abby, but no one should be buying a representative seat,
Mhm.
right? And where are you getting these millions of dollars? Is it from NGOs? Is it from special interest groups? Is it from super PACs? Who is controlling how you are going to vote,
Mhm.
right? And to this end, when you talk about this being the most important race, this is what's frightening. The talk now is that this race was at the top of the ballot of concerns. It's gone down to like sixth or seventh in terms of the Senate races. Why? Because people up and down the East Coast do not think that Michael Whatley can beat Roy Cooper. So they're saying we're actually going to be shifting our monies over to these other races that might be more winnable, right? Because they're looking at North Carolina is going to be a foregone conclusion that Roy is going to take the seat. This is not okay because if Roy Cooper takes the seat, as I said before, we could lose our simple majority in Raleigh, right? We can lose judicial seats that are on the appellate court, that are on the ballot for this year. We could turn blue. And then do you know how hard it's going to be to get a Republican into the White House in 28? Because every path to the Oval Office comes straight through the state of North Carolina.
It
This
does.
is what is at stake, right? It's not just North Carolina, it's not just this Senate seat. And so I have the ability to relate to people, to talk to people, even the people that I told people yesterday at an event that I was at. I People don't understand just how intense the superintendent's race was. I got death threats by phone, by email, in the mail, horrible things every day of this race. I was going into literally the lion's den. I would go to these education forums, and these people were hissing and harassing and interrupting and calling out and jeering everywhere I went. And I continued to just speak about how we're going to improve education, right? With the thought that maybe some semblance of hope or unity that we have in wanting a better future for our children was going to drop. And I will tell you, I've had a lot of people screaming in my face, and I would say, tell me really what you're most upset about, or what you're most fearful of, or why are you so angry? And by the end of that 10-minute conversation, every single one of them would say, you know what, you're not as crazy as I thought you were. Thank you for talking to me, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we need. We need people who are of us, that aren't above every common man, that would sit down and go, you know what? I don't know everything. I'm not right about everything, and I don't claim to be, but I'm willing to be a servant of the people. And I promise the people of North Carolina that if I am your senator, every decision that is made in North Carolina will be what is best for America and what is best for Americans. We will be putting money back in your pocket. We will be arresting criminals. We will be trying them. We will be prosecuting them to the fullest extent of the law. We will get back to a nation where our young people are hopeful that they can achieve the American dream, that they don't have to wait until they're 45 to buy a house, right? That they don't have to watch our jobs being given to foreigners or even people from other states. This is something that nobody's talking about. We talk about the economic issues, the kitchen table issues. I can talk about that. I've dealt with a one person, one member, breadwinner trying to live in one of the most expensive cities with 5 children, right? I get it.
Mhm.
And I'm doing this to fulfill what President Trump has been trying to do, which is engage the people of America to take back their own government and recognize every elected official has one job, and that is to make their citizens safe from threats, foreign and domestic, and to ensure that you are able to realize your God-given inalienable right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Every bill we pass, every decision we make, every time we're deciding about how we spend money, Americans need to be at the forefront of our mind, not the corporations, not the NGOs, not our allies anywhere in the world. America first doesn't mean America only. It means first we put on the oxygen mask in our own country and fix what is broken here, which there is a lot that needs to be fixed. And then we can continue to be the generous, compassionate, the most generous and most compassionate nation in the history of the world to everyone else.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the people of the United States, the people of North Carolina are some of the most down home, God-fearing people that I've ever been around. Granted, I've only ever lived here, and I'm thankful I've only ever lived here. But
Yeah.
you're talking about people asking how much money you've run. I love to throw when people ask that about candidates, I love to throw it back in their face, going, Kamala had $2 billion, and
I
Trump
know.
raised hundreds of millions of dollars, and
Uh-huh.
she still lost. So it really
Uh-huh.
doesn't matter how much money a candidate has. I love throwing that back in people's face, especially when it catches them off guard. But that's just me.
Yeah, well, but and the other thing is, and it's important for people to remember this, like I, by God's grace, I raised $475,000 in a superintendent's race. No one had ever raised more than $200,000 in the history of North Carolina. But think about this. When I ran against Catherine Truitt, I actually filed and announced almost on the same day that I filed and announced for U.S. Senate. So it's interesting that everybody now is like, oh, you're so late. And I was like, you didn't say that when I was running against Catherine Truitt. And by the way, everyone told me, you can't do this. It's impossible. She's an incumbent. She has all the support of the party. She's got money. You can't do this. Do you know that through 22,000 miles on my car, talking to people and having already engaged for 10 years with the people of North Carolina, It only cost me $30,000 to be the only person in the history of the state to beat an incumbent Council of State member in a primary in the history of North Carolina. So don't tell me that's like t telling me, Jesus, those 11 disciples, they're not going to be able to do anything with your gospel, right? Like, no, they just changed the entire world, right? I mean, like, if you are concerned about me having money, donate to me today. Give me $10 because all of that money that I received came from North Carolina citizens. Every single dollar. It was tens of thousands of people that gave $50 or $100 or $20 or $10. I only had 12 people that maxed out the $6,000
Mhm.
out of $475,000. And understand this, everybody needs to, when you're talking about numbers and you're talking about statistics, I was outspent 475,000 to 8.3 million, 17 to 1, and I came within 2 points of winning. And I had zero support from the state party. I got that much money from the state party. Zilcho, nada, not a dime. But you know what? I connected with the people of North Carolina. And that is what we deserve. We deserve that our representatives that go up to Washington, D.C. have us on their mind. I'm not going up to live in D.C. I'm going to work in D.C. I live in North Carolina. This is
Mhm.
my home. This is where my heart is. And these are the people that I serve. I don't serve them. And when you're talking about everybody gets worried, oh, how are you going to face the temptation for this, the temptation for that? Listen, I could care less about the title. I don't care. I'm doing this because someone needs to fight to save North Carolina. And my experience and my track record of trust with the people of North Carolina has told me you are the one that can go against Roy Cooper. But here's the other thing. People say, how are you going to defeat Roy Cooper? I said, I'm not. We're going to defeat Roy Cooper, right? It's just my name on the ballot. I'm just out in the front leading the charge, and I need everybody else behind me. This is, like I said, this is a battle. This is a battle, and you don't just send one person into battle by themselves. And when I'm there, I'm going to have bi-monthly town halls where I'm going to tell everybody what's happening. I'm going to be doing videos, when I'm up on the Hill. I will be having in every region, in every congressional region, I'm going to have a contact area for people that they can answer emails, they can answer phone calls, so that you are connected to what is happening in Washington, D.C., because we are going there to tell the federal government what we need from them. Like,
Yeah.
that's the whole point why we send people to the federal government, right?
Yeah.
It's to
I,
give us back our tax money for our needs as citizens of North Carolina. We seem to have lost sight of kind of what the point is. It's not just to go up there and be at parties and the other thing is everybody wants to brag that's already up there. Well, I passed this many bills. I think probably you would agree with me. I think we have enough laws. I think
yeah.
it's time for us to actually start like upholding our laws, right?
Yep.
Right? It's not exciting when President Trump does an executive order to get boys out of girls' sports and to end DEI, and then we find out that NC State and the UNC system is still doing DEI secretly, right? And they're still getting paid money from our state and from our federal government, right?
Yeah.
That's not anything to celebrate. It makes no difference if you write laws and you can just go, look at me, vote for me again, because I didn't got all these bills passed. And it's like, yeah, but it isn't changing anything. So,
Yeah, I think we've lost sight of the fact that people in the government work for us, not the other
yeah,
way around. We need to start holding officials accountable for their actions. When
right.
like you said, when they start admitting to crimes, they they need to go
I
away in
mean,
handcuffs.
I mean, why is Ilhan Omar still in this country?
Yeah,
I mean, 3.5 years ago, they told us that they thought that she had committed, immigration fraud, and now they have the proof. I mean, they're coming out on regular news stations and saying we have proof
yeah,
that she cheated the system. You're like, All right. Well, that seems like a no-brainer, you
Yeah.
know? I mean,
She
and
had
she's
a
in Congress, for goodness sake. I mean, what in the world? And that's where the apathy creeps in. And I think people start to think, well, it's never going to change. And I have to tell you, because as I've traveled the state again, people are kind of like, oh, we just don't think it can happen. And I'm like, listen, I understand that you are jaded because you haven't seen change happen. But we are here for such a time as this. We can't just throw in the towel. I mean, we've got to do this for the people that come behind us, right? Look at what our founding fathers were willing to give up for a nation that was just an idea, right?
Mhm.
They'd never even lived in true freedom. Like this constitutional republic idea that we're of the people, by the people, and for they'd never experienced that. It was just a dream. It was just an ideology. And we are 250 years later, the beneficiaries of it.
Yeah. And most of them were teenagers.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I tell people, and by the way, only one out of every three of the colonists wanted to go to war with Great Britain. Right? I mean, it was divine intervention 100% that ever established the United States. And so I was very excited when President Trump said the other day that we are going to rededicate the United States of America to be one nation under God.
Mhm.
And I think we need to finish that and say indivisible with liberty and justice for all, because we don't have liberty if we don't have justice, right? And we don't have justice if we don't have God. We don't have a moral compass if we don't have, right, those
Mhm.
moral absolutes that our nation was founded on. And it was John Adams that said this nation was wholly, this Constitution and the government that we have is wholly for a religious people, and it is, incomparable for anybody else. And so it's time for us to go back to our heritage. And we need people like you. I mean, that's the other thing. What just happened in September with Charlie Kirk? We need someone to come and excite and empower our young people once again. There's been such a movement of them to recognize you have purpose. We need you. Like you need to be proud to be an American. Are we perfect? Absolutely not. But you have an opportunity to change the things that are broken, right? You need
Mhm.
to use your gifts and your talents and your passions and your connections to make a life for yourself. And that's what we need to be empowering you guys to do. And I mean, I'm excited about the opportunity. As I said, I can just put myself out there and give people a choice.
Mhm.
Because I think that's where that's where we benefit the most is truly having a choice of candidates, um and then let the chips fall where they may. I mean, regardless of whether I'm in this seat or not, I'm going to continue to fight, um, you know, for constitutional values and for the United States.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. I've said that over and over again. This has been an ugly primary. People like to attack each other on the internet for wanting to vote one way or the other. And I always say, the beauty of this country is if you don't like someone, don't vote for them. It's simple as
Right.
that. You
Yeah.
don't have to open up your mouth or stand behind your keyboard. You can just fill in a different bubble. It's the beauty of
Exactly.
our country, and no one's. It's not like, it's not like in North Korea where if you fill in the wrong bubble, you and your
Yeah.
entire family die.
That's
Uh,
exactly right. Yeah. 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 I know. I agree. And I think unfortunately, egos get in the way and people start to believe that I think they've lost sight of the goal because all I've heard is, we need to defeat Watley, like from the grassroots, the same people that stood arm in arm with me and shoulder to shoulder. And, all of a sudden they're claiming that I'm a rhino and getting paid by Watley, and I don't have any right to be in this race. And I'm like, anybody could fight. Why were you not upset with the other four people that we've never heard of or seen at any GOP function, for the 11 years that I've been at, Republican events? Why are you not upset with them for splitting the vote? And how am I being divisive when I'm just putting out there, hey guys, you have another choice? I think it's divisive when you're calling me names and you're slandering me and you're lying about me and you're getting people to distrust me. I think that's being divisive. And quite honestly, the left really loves it because the left hasn't even had to come after me.
Mhm.
right? I mean, I was bracing myself, I live in a very blue area, and I thought, okay, as soon as I announce, it's going to be, just the same old, same old. But and I was shocked when it was people that I have thought are really good friends. But here's the thing. It's a political game. Let the chips fall where they may. Whoever ends up being the candidate, I'm going to fight for to beat Roy Cooper. I mean, that's just how it is. I'm, like I said, this is not my identity. I'm just, my identity is in Christ, and I'm just going to continue to speak truth and seek justice and try to bring righteousness back to North Carolina and the United States, and we'll see what happens.
Amen. Amen. Um, so I'd like to talk a little bit about policies that you want to push.
Yeah,
I should have pulled up your website to have it next to you, but I didn't. Um,
that's okay. No,
but
yeah, no,
I'd love to hear about, your opinions on some of the really hot button issues right now and
yeah,
see, as a senator, what are you going to do? Like we have the thing with um I'm not even going to try and butcher her name. Arena, I'm not going to try to butcher her last name.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
but
yeah.
like,
Oh,
we have repeated. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
the fact that Roy Cooper let people out of prison that ended up coming and killing people, I mean, murdering them in public, and
Yeah,
nothing has,
absolutely.
yes, yeah. I mean, that's my number one thing is because I truly believe unless we start prosecuting people to the fullest extent of the law and making an example of that, this is going to continue. You know, part of I don't know if you know John MacArthur. He's passed away, but he was a really powerful pastor out in California, and his church was paying, I think, $100,000 a week because they refused to close down their church during COVID. And then eventually the Supreme Court actually gave them back their money because they said it was unconstitutional. But when things were going really bad, I don't know if you remember, I'm sure you remember at Charlottesville when people were killed and it was a horrible situation. And when someone stood up in his church and said, it seems like we are worse in terms of racially divided and just politically divided now than we were back 20 years ago, right? And he said, here's the thing. God has put three protections in our society to keep us from spinning out of orbit. The one is the conscience, the human conscience, right? That even when you're 2 years old, if you're doing something wrong and you need to go sneak it, right? Like you just know inherently when something is wrong or right or wrong. He said, but when your conscience has been seared, right? That allows you to do things that that go against what is right. Then you have leaders in your life, whether it's your parents, your teachers, your coaches, mentors, whatever. But if you don't have any respect for them anymore, then you're able to do things that, are depraved. And then law enforcement is like the third step. And if you have no respect for law enforcement, if we're defunding the police, if we're telling people, if we are getting our students in elementary school to be practicing how to, hold signs and picket against ICE in their kindergarten and first grade classrooms, we have a serious problem.
Mhm.
And I will say there's also a fourth, and that's consequences. When someone sees someone else facing consequences for the very thing they are doing, they start thinking, whoa, it becomes about me, right? It's about you. And you go, I don't know that I'm willing to go that far and pay that price. And that's why society needs laws to be enforced, and they need it to be public knowledge that people are facing penalties for their crimes. Because for too long, we've not seen anybody, even in DC, right? I mean, how encouraged would we be? I don't care on either side of the aisle. If somebody's been found money laundering, if somebody's been found aiding and abetting the enemy, how about the seditious six? That are current members of Congress that were telling our military to disobey the commands of the commander in chief. Nothing ever happened with them, Abby, right?
Mhm.
We all talk a good game. Why? Because that
Yeah.
just sent a real strong message to those that are in the military themselves. That's not a safe place to be. If you
No.
don't know, if your, soldier next to you is just going to one day decide that they're not going to follow orders, that's putting your life at risk, right? That's
Yeah.
it, that's impeding the entire military system. And so things like that, I'm going to be very dogged about making sure that we start prosecuting people and not just talking about the crimes that they've done. That's one thing. The second thing is we talk about election integrity. This SAVE Act, we need a federal law that talks about what the rules are for our elections, period. It needs to be one federal holiday, the day of voting. I say one day of early voting that states can choose whether or not they're going to do it. That's it. No mail-in ballots, no machines. We have all paper ballots. You show an ID, and I think it needs to come from the State Board of Elections. We know in North Carolina how stinking corrupt the DMV and inefficient and ineffective they are. They're just inept. And they're the one
Hmm.
handling our registration process. Because they are, right? That's where everybody registers to vote. It's when you get your driver's license,
Yeah.
right? So what is wrong with this picture when, and we know there were over 200,000 people that they just found on the voter rolls that did not have a valid social security number or a valid driver's license number, right? How do we tell the people go out and vote if there's if it's not secure, if it's not legal, if it's not fair, right? So that's one thing.
Hmm.
Healthcare. As a nurse, I see the waste, the fraud, the abuse. We got to get government, the insurance companies, and big pharma out of our exam rooms. When your doctor should be
Hmm.
deciding what's going to be done with you, not insurance, not government, and not big pharma. And we need the DHHS in our states to make sure that in every county of North Carolina, we have an excellent, affordable, local healthcare system so people don't have to travel an hour and a half when you have a medical emergency. That's ridiculous in 2026. We totally have the ability to do it. We just have not been prioritizing, and we have been paying for people that are not citizens to get medical care. That's why you have to wait 3 months to get a doctor's appointment. That's why all the costs have gone up because the demand is higher than the supply, quite frankly. So we're talking election integrity, safety. And the other thing I'm going to call for is we need an accounting of every single dollar that has been spent by our federal government. And we need to cut every person that is not a citizen, every entity, any corporation that they're paying, any foreign entity, anybody that's a special interest group. You don't get a dime. It's coming back to the American people. And I say we got to cut property tax. We don't need death tax. We don't need inheritance tax. We need to look at the flat tax and look at, how we could handle that again. There's so much wealth that has been squandered by our government. We need to cut the federal workforce by 75%. I mean, we've got
Yep.
people that are getting paid six figures and they're doing nothing, right? Or they're just making us jump through hoops to get the services that we need, and we're paying them to make life difficult for us. It needs to stop. The federal government should be shrinking and the states should be empowered because the closer the services, the closer the decisions are to the actual people, the more accountability you have, right? Local
Mhm.
elections are most important. Like what is happening in your county commission, in your school board, in your city council impacts your everyday life much more than what the senators are doing up in Washington, D.C., right? But we need to shrink the federal government so that is the case. Because right now, we're just gathering money and gathering money and gathering money and doing the same thing over and over again and thinking we're going to get a different result. So those are kind of my
Yep.
big things is the economy, safety, and of course, education, so I mean, there's a lot of hot button items, but I think I have
We could
practical
probably,
practical ideas.
oh yeah, we could probably spend several hours talking about that
Yeah.
too. Um, did I just cut you off? I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're
Go
good.
ahead.
It's saying your
Oh,
bandwidth
okay.
is low. Can you see me okay?
Yeah. Can you see? I can see you. Can you see me?
Okay. You're a little blurry, but that's okay as long as it looks good on
Okay.
your end. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Um, so your experiences as a nurse and then, a mom and a political fighter and then candidate for public instruction. You've had all these experiences.
And an
How do you think that
educator.
that's going to shape
Well,
your
and an
time on cabinet?
educator,
And an
I taught
educator, yeah.
biology and chemistry and civics and Spanish. And the other thing is that I was a missionary. So I under my three of my five kids were born in Mexico City. And so I also understand from that point of view and have immigration reform. I actually submitted an entire paper to President Trump in his first term, telling him how I feel like this needs to be changed. And I think those ideas still have great validity. And I'll just share a little bit of for North Carolina. Like we were at a talk out east a couple weeks ago, excuse me, and they were talking about the fact that people were upset that we don't have a budget, right, in North Carolina, that, and they're criticizing the Republicans because we have the majority and we haven't gotten a budget. Well, we do have a budget because when they don't come to an agreement, the old budget for the year before just stays in effect. So it's not like we don't have, a compass of where we're going and how we're spending our money. But I will say this, they were talking about the fact that North Carolina needs $70 million for the Medicaid expansion that's happened, right? And so county commissioners were asking, are you just going to shove that cost back on to the county, right? Is that what's going to happen at the state? Because we don't want that to happen. And I kind of raised my head and I said, well, statistically, there are over 3 million people who are getting Medicaid just in North Carolina. So I have an idea. Let's start charging them $10 a month for Medicaid. Problem solved. You and I have to pay every month for our health insurance, hundreds of dollars. It is not a lot to ask someone to pay $10 for them to have the ability to get health care. And you're now looking at over $30 million a month in the system, helping to pay people's medical bills. And it's not coming from you and I. It's coming from the very people who are receiving those services. And I think that's fair, right? It's done. Don't raise everybody's taxes to do this. Get the people who are receiving the benefit to pay into it. The Salvation Army worked this way. They were one of the first things that, took people in off the streets, people that were down on their luck, but they charged them 5 cents for a bed and they charged them, 10 cents to use the shower. And it's because there is dignity in having to invest something in a service that you're receiving, right? There's not only dignity in that, but there's also an appreciation for the service that you're receiving when you're putting something into it.
Hmm.
And things like that are just practical solutions that who's going to complain about somebody having to pay $10 a month, right? And if they do complain about it, let them complain. Let them call you name. Who cares, right? I mean, it's just the right thing to do. It's just the right thing to do. So, yeah, I'm excited. I think that when our founding fathers said that they wanted this to be a nation of the people, they didn't mean of the lawyers, right? They meant of people of
Yeah.
all different backgrounds and all different skill sets and all different, you know, experience. Because you need people that are coming with a different perspective, different ideas for how to solve problems. If you all just have the same set, the same ability set, you're going to be very narrow-minded in how you fix something. And I think we're seeing that. And I will say, I'm the only non-lawyer running for this seat out of Watley Brown or Cooper. And does anyone really think that we're going to fix DC in our country by sending another lawyer to DC? Anyone? Anyone? I mean, not that there's anything wrong. I mean, there's a lot of great lawyers, but I think having 75% of the people up there being lawyers might be part of the problem. Just a thought, right? Practical. We need people that have practically solved problems. That's why President Trump, and
Yeah.
it's interesting because President Trump was seen as such an outsider, right? He can't be the president. He's never been in politics. He doesn't know how the government's run. He's going to make a mess of it. Well, wow, lo and behold, come to find out, you get a businessman to run the executive branch of the government, and all of a sudden it's moving like clockwork, right? How about we get some
Negotiating
actual,
deals. Yep.
right? How about you get some actual healthcare professionals to be dealing with the healthcare issues? How about you get some actual educators to be dealing with education? How about you get some people that actually worked in the mission field and understand the culture south of the border to help you with the immigration crisis, right? I mean, just the thought.
I blinked again. Sorry. So, um, you know, I think we've been talking. So I think about right here, I'll probably put in the thing we talked
Okay,
about earlier.
okay,
Um, but I do have, so I've been watching all these boards on Facebook and these people attack each other. It's crazy. And they're liking to bring up old stuff and
yeah,
say, okay, it makes Michelle a bad candidate because she did this and this and this. So I have a post from 2020 that you put out that people are pissed about, and I would love to give you a chance to clear it up and like be like, hey, that was stupid.
sure, yeah, yeah.
Um, it's the thing with George Floyd, because
George
people keep
Floyd.
bringing that up. The police officer that deserves a death penalty and all the officers that watches their life in prison, but people are taking
See,
it out of context.
I first of all, I don't ever remember writing that. I mean, just like I never ever remember posting anything that said anything about Cooper. I mean, I know that I wrote the thing about Obama, but I mean, here's the thing. When everything first happened, you might have heard Dan Bongino. Dan Bongino says you need to wait 48 hours before anybody, makes any statements.
Mhm.
And and what that was, if I had said that, or people have manipulated things. I mean, there's things that are
They
out there that
do.
I absolutely never said. I mean, honestly, I don't ever remember saying that. I have been back the blue since 2020. I actually started, people don't know this. A friend of mine and I started a Feed the Police program in North Carolina. Do you remember when the police officers were having their drinks, like glass put in their food and when they
Oh
were in
yeah.
uniform? Okay, so we started a Feed the Police. I mean, my brother was a police officer. I am totally in favor of the police. So I don't know where they're pulling that up. If it was anything, it was if someone is found guilty, right? If you really, were choking someone to death, right? When they're asking you to stop, then absolutely. If somebody's found guilty of murdering someone, they need to be held accountable. But I honestly,
Absolutely.
I don't remember ever saying that. And I can tell you, I was at every reopen campaign. I was, supported by Back the Blue. I mean, I was supported by all of the police agencies, in
Mhm.
my thing, because I'm all about law and order. I mean,
Absolutely.
I'm out there saying, everybody needs to be arrested that's even trying, even talking about going against ICE and trying to impede what they're doing. I think they should be arresting everyone, putting them into these daycare centers that are empty, and we should be giving them trials within a week's time, and they should be paying fines or going to jail.
Yeah.
I honestly, I don't ever remember writing that, but the
Yeah.
only way that I would write that was if someone was found guilty of a police officer actually murdering someone, right? And going, and abusing his power, then he should absolutely be held accountable to the law.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
but I've never once ever, I mean, been in favor of George Floyd. I mean, as a matter of fact, I was downtown when they were coming and destroying pulling down the monuments and spray painting everything and destroying our storefronts. I was down there, trying to stop people. So
Hmm.
I don't, I mean, this is the thing. People are the left is trying to find a way to get the right to hate me because Roy Cooper fears me more than anyone on this ballot. And people need to understand there is a reason why he purposely, when you guys were suffering and literally underwater from Hurricane
Hmm.
Helene and people were dying, Roy Cooper, instead of coming to Western North Carolina, Roy Cooper was having a town hall event to raise money to defeat Michelle Morrow, the Ultra MAGA, for superintendent. That was happening. They spent $8.3 million to try to silence me. They brought Barack Obama to Charlotte because I speak up and I speak for what is true. Listen, have I always said everything perfectly? Absolutely not. And I mean, like to the point, I don't ever remember writing that post. If I wrote that post, it was because they were talking about the fact that it looked like these police officers had been guilty of something. And I was saying, if a police officer uses his uniform and uses that power really, to murder someone, then absolutely they should be held accountable. Usually, what I'm saying is, I believe anyone that has, I've said this more often than not, which they don't bring this up, as I've said, anyone that attacks and kills a police officer in uniform should be looking at potentially facing the death penalty. Like that should be right. I mean, because that's what we've had much more of, right? Is people just gunning people down, police officers down when they're in uniform. We had that in Dallas at the same time as this with George Floyd. They literally went and were gunning them down at gas stations as they were filling up their patrol cars. So that's not who I am. I am all about justice for everybody. If you've broken the law, it shouldn't matter if you're in a uniform. It shouldn't matter what color your skin is. It shouldn't matter, how much money you have in your bank account. Justice should be blind and balanced, and anyone has their day in court. You should be considered innocent until proven guilty. But at that point, once you are proven guilty, we need to start bringing back. We need to start bringing back true consequences. I've said this. We need to go to Rudy Giuliani's plan. Rudy Giuliani in New York City, right? When he came in as mayor, nobody wanted to travel there anymore. They were losing millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars a year because tourism was down because crime was so high. And what did he do? He said, we're going to start prosecuting everything. If you're spray painting on the side of a building, if you're throwing a rock through a window, if you're scratching the side of a car. And what did that do? It made New York City safer than it had been in decades. And that's what we need again. We don't have law and order in our streets when we aren't prosecuting, when we aren't holding even our young people accountable for things they're doing in school, for instance, where there's so much violence. It just begets more and more violent crime. And so that's my point. I'm all about law and order. I will support every law enforcement agent, to the nth degree. And it's time for us to bring back justice and consequences. And quite honestly, as a senator, I'm pretty tired. I think everybody is tired of watching these congressional hearings and hearing people perjure themselves, hearing them literally admit to crimes against our country and against humanity, and they just walk back out the door. And it's like we've got all these awesome talking, oh, look at so and so. He really went after him. It's like, okay, why are the Capitol police officers not standing in the back of the room? And as soon as somebody has confessed to a crime or been found guilty of a crime or perjured themselves, arrest them. Arrest them and let's have the discovery period, right? Let's go find where they are guilty of these crimes. I think we're not going to ever return to the United States that we all know and love unless we start having justice be, meted out. So, I mean, people can be upset. I'm sorry, I don't ever remember writing that. But I stand behind, I back the blue 100%, and I'm all for law and order. But I do think it needs to be, that doesn't give anybody, a blind pass to just do anything, right? Everybody needs to be held accountable. So I don't know if that answers it, but.
That was great. I hadn't started the episode, but I had started recording. So if you put that, I'm just gonna move that to like the end of the episode because that was that was a really good answer.
Okay.
I can send you if you're like I said, I haven't started the episode. I can totally send you the screenshot and you can look at it. This is what they put everywhere, and it's Michelle Morrow at _stand_firm. If you like, I don't know if there's legal stuff that you need to do because that's slander if it didn't.
Well, just so you know, there's a lot of legal stuff that we need to do, and there's actually things that I'm taking screenshots of things. So yeah, send that to me. I mean, this is the reality, Abby. I mean, I have been out on the front lines, taking the arrows, taking the slings, speaking the truth for 11 years, and if people don't know who I am and what I stand for right now, and they're going to believe the leftist media that's just trying to find anything that they can, right, to make people not trust me or whatever. I mean, but the frustrating thing is when we as conservatives just take everything at face value or we take everything that's said and we just assume that it's truth. right? Like we
Yeah.
just go, yeah, that might, I mean, we've seen AI. How many people were using people's voices, right? And making false recordings and fake. It's not hard to just make up a post and act like I wrote that, right? In
Yeah.
2020. I mean, come on. Um,
Yeah.
I
That's
mean,
why I wanted to give you a chance to clear the air
yeah,
because I think when someone will, sit there and said, yes, I did, no, I didn't, it's a lot more convincing than writing a Facebook post saying this didn't happen. It's better to
right.
hear. I
Yeah,
mean, that's what I think.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And like I said, I never ever remember writing those words. And so, but my heart is that, I mean, George Floyd is the whole reason why we had the summer of love, right? And we had cities that were destroyed. And right now it's still continuing. I mean, that the whole BLM and the Antifa movement and the destruction of cities and, the defunding the police and the sanctuary cities, all of that stemmed from that episode. And it was all purposeful. It was all purposeful to try to
Mhm.
destroy our nation.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we can start. I don't want to take up all night. We
Yeah.
can talk. I feel like you and I could talk about this for hours. Um,
Yes, we could.
cool. Okay. You ready?
Yeah. Ready.
Is it recording? Let me make sure. I always double check. Anyway. So yeah. So, you know, we've talked, we've been talking. You've great, great answers. Oh my gosh. Um, where can we find out more about your campaign and what you stand for and things like that?
Yeah, they can go to my website. It's morrow4nc.com. It's Morrow, like tomorrow, the number 4nc.com. I'm excited. You can, and if anybody has any questions, they can email me at morrowcampaign@gmail.com. And I answer as many of those as I possibly can. I've been busy filling out survey after survey after survey, so I haven't had a ton of time because I'm working full time too and traveling. But we try to get to all of the questions too. And I just, like you said before, I am asking to be your civil servant in DC. I'm asking to be your voice and to help you as North Carolinians to have the absolute best quality of life that you can have. I think that should be the role of every public servant is to improve your lives, and our lives as a whole as Americans. So I greatly appreciate everybody's vote and their support. If you're concerned about going up against the Cooper machine and the millions, you can donate today. And together we will, like I said, this is not me that's going to defeat him. This is we. This is we, the people, that are going to take back our state and our country.
Awesome. Is there anything else that you want to add before we go?
No, just if you think that Roy Cooper cannot be defeated, then you're probably supporting the wrong candidate because my supporters know that I can take him down with your help. So come over to the team that's excited about this race, and we're planning on having fun in the process. And we're going to show the rest of the country how it's done. I think it's time for us to return to being first in freedom, just like we were 250 years ago when, when our founders in Mecklenburg, they were the first ones to say we are independent from Great Britain and we are going to be our own state and our own country. And we have a chance to do that again.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Michelle. We really enjoyed talking to you. I say we, like it's more than just me, but
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed talking to you.
I've enjoyed talking to you too. Thank you
Awesome.
so much for reaching out.
So, yeah. So, you know, we've talked, we've been talking. You've great, great answers. Oh my gosh. Um, where can we find out more about your campaign and what you stand for and things like that?
Yeah, they can go to my website. It's morrow4nc.com. It's Morrow, like tomorrow, the number 4nc.com. I'm excited. You can, and if anybody has any questions, they can email me at morrowcampaign@gmail.com. And I answer as many of those as I possibly can. I've been busy filling out survey after survey after survey, so I haven't had a ton of time because I'm working full time too and traveling. But we try to get to all of the questions too. And I just, like you said before, I am asking to be your civil servant in DC. I'm asking to be your voice and to help you as North Carolinians to have the absolute best quality of life that you can have. I think that should be the role of every public servant is to improve your lives and our lives as a whole as Americans. So I greatly appreciate everybody's vote and their support. If you're concerned about going up against the Cooper machine and the millions, you can donate today. And together we will, like I said, this is not me that's going to defeat him. This is we. This is we, the people, that are going to take back our state and our country.
Awesome. Is there anything else that you want to add before we go?
No, just if you think that Roy Cooper cannot be defeated, then you're probably supporting the wrong candidate because my supporters know that I can take him down with your help. So come over to the team that's excited about this race, and we're planning on having fun in the process. And we're going to show the rest of the country how it's done. I think it's time for us to return to being first in freedom, just like we were 250 years ago when, when our founders in Mecklenburg, they were the first ones to say we are independent from Great Britain and we are going to be our own state and our own country. And we have a chance to do that again.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Michelle. We really enjoyed talking to you. I say we, like it's more than just me, but
Yeah,
I've really enjoyed talking to you.
I've enjoyed talking to you too. Thank you
Awesome.
so much for reaching out.